What would you do if you lost all the wealth you've built so far? How would you feel? Not very good, I imagine, but losing the entirety of your wealth, it's very possible. In fact, this is something many people are living right now. Anil Ambani, once the sixth richest person on the planet, is an excellent example of a billionaire whose best days are now behind him, thanks to his meteoric fall from a $42 billion fortune down to zero. You heard that right. Mr. Anil, the youngest brother of Asia's richest man, Mukesh Ambani, is now penniless. And don't just take our word for it, but take Anil's. In 2020, he declared himself a pauper to Chinese banks and informed a UK court his net worth had become zero. And in case I've gotten you worried about the guy, he's fine. He will be fine. But it's still a prime example of a billionaire losing it all. But enough talk of losing wealth. Today we're here to discuss how to preserve it. Here are 15 effective ways of preserving your wealth so you don't end up like Mr. Anil. Let's go. Welcome to ALUX. Number 1. Manage your money well. This one here is so obvious it's gotta be number 1. And think about it. How can you preserve your wealth if your money management skills are non-existent? You see, being great at managing your cash does more than just allow you to build wealth. It enables you to keep it. Haven't you heard that making money is only half the battle and keeping it is the other half? Well, if you hadn't heard it, now you have. So here's the thing. Excellent budgeting is easily the most effective way to manage your money. Granted, budgeting feels restrictive because after all, why would you give up the freedom to spend as you please? But don't fall for that line of thought. With proper budgeting, you stay ahead of your finances, and this goes a long way in helping you to hold on to the wealth that you accumulate over time. Number 2. Boost your income. Don't come at me just yet. I know you're wondering, what does increasing my income have to do with preserving it? Well, let me tell you more. An increased income means you won't be eating into your net worth by tapping into your savings, going into debt, or disposing of some assets. And besides that, an increased income means extra cash you could save and invest to realize even greater returns. Now, let's get a little practical and talk about how you can boost your income. You could negotiate a salary increase at work. Make money from your talent by being a writer, an editor, presenter, or so on. Turn your hobby into an income-generating activity, or start some other kind of passive income activity. Number 3. Invest wisely. Yes, investing wisely is also a great way to preserve your wealth, and let me just tell you why. When you invest money wisely, you grow your wealth. If you started at point B, smart investments will take you to point C. And as such, you won't remain stagnant at point B, or even worse, go back to point A. This is some pretty basic stuff, and if you don't know what investing wisely looks like, well, we've got a video on exactly what we're investing in right now. You can watch it by clicking in the top right corner. Number 4. Diversify. Are you familiar with the Patricia Kluge story? No? Well, let me bring you up to speed. So, Patricia, a former heiress and model, was married to John W. Kluge, who was once worth $5 billion and considered the wealthiest person in America. Now, this was back in the 80s. So, around 1990, the couple divorced, and Patricia received a massive settlement of $1 million annually. Bitten by the entrepreneurship bug, Patricia invested the majority of her divorce money in a vineyard that had a brief stint of success before nosediving and costing her most of her fortune. Patricia even had to offload some of her art pieces and jewelry at auction. So, what's the moral of the story? You need to invest in different things. Instead of putting everything in one opportunity, spread your investments over several, like the stock market or real estate. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket. You know the saying. Number 5. Hire a good CPA and do what they say. Another great way to preserve wealth is by being ahead of the good old tax man. And what better way to do that than by having a good accountant and tax advisor? In case you don't know, a CPA is always up to speed with developments in tax regulations and will advise you on legal ways to reduce your tax burden. And consequently, you get to avoid tax issues, meaning you won't have to pay fines that could eat up your net worth. Number 6, get insured. You might not have given it much thought, but insuring your assets is actually an excellent way to preserve your wealth. Especially as climate change intensifies, your home or investment properties are now at a greater risk of catastrophes, such as hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, hailstorms, or flooding. If you are insured, it'll sting, but you'll be better taken care of. If you aren't, you could be left with a lot of damage, but not many options. Number 7, seek good legal advice. Rich people are in court every day. Yeah, that thing about being lonely at the top is indeed often true. But what they probably didn't tell you as much was that there's a lot of litigation at the top. Like it or not, once you make it, you become a target for your neighbor, past colleagues, random strangers, your security detail, the list goes on. The motivation? Well, it's mostly a slice or even the whole of your wealth. And that's why you need to lawyer up and have the best legal minds by your side. They will help you to battle predators and also guide you through business contracts. And not to forget, they'll also tell you when to hush before your mouth costs you half of your wealth. Number 8, have an estate plan. You want a reason to create an estate plan? Well, how about 5? Estate planning will offer asset protection, develop a plan for continuing your legacy after you're gone, offer tax benefits, support your favorite cause, and ensure your family avoids probate court. Now, aren't all of these great ways to preserve your wealth? Number 9, pick executors and trustees wisely. Preserving your wealth also boils down to the person you choose to be an executor or trustee for your estate. Sure, you might want to go with a family member because you feel like you know them. But even so, this decision can turn out to be a problem, as family members have their own prejudices that could undermine your judgment. So to ensure transparency, it's best to pick a professional like a lawyer as an executor, or to find a trust company to manage your trust. Number 10. Sign a prenup. That's right. Signing a prenup is another way to preserve your wealth. Not to be grim about anything, but while a relationship might start with all butterflies and rainbows, it could end up in the mud with some name-calling and going for each other's throats, or at least property. However, if you had a prenup, you would have one less thing to worry about during such trying times. At least your property and investments will be preserved. Number 11. Prepare a will. Look, nobody likes thinking about death, but it's inevitable, and writing a will is a must. Aside from allowing you to distribute your assets upon your death as per your wishes, a will enables you to specify your debts. And let me just give you a tip. If you want your assets to be passed down to your family, you need to keep updating your will. This way, you can preserve your wealth and pass it down on your terms. Number 12. Keep tabs on your assets. The last thing you want is your assets to slip away from you just because you don't have up-to-date documents or know how they're doing. And no, this is not about doing the extraordinary. You could start with simple things, such as putting copies of important documents in a safe place. These could be insurance papers, withdrawal receipts, bank account papers, retirement contributions, real estate purchase papers, power of attorneys, and so on. Having these papers sorted and safely stored gives you a good hold on your wealth. Number 13. Have an emergency fund. To preserve your wealth, you need to build an emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 of your family's expenses in case you lose your job or are otherwise unable to work. As an A-Luxer, you should be creating one that could cover you for even longer than that. But by setting up an emergency fund, you will not undermine your net worth by selling off possessions, taking loans, or using your investment money to cover you. Number 14. Avoid naming your estate as the beneficiary for life insurance. Let me elaborate on this one. The name of the nominee on your life insurance plan plays a vital role in its taxability. If you name an individual as the beneficiary, the insurance money will often not accrue taxes. However, if you put your estate as the beneficiary, your insurance money will be tallied along with your estate's gross value and taxed based on the cumulative value of your estate. Now, which one's the smarter move? It's definitely the former over the latter. Number 15. Be charitable. Now, how does donating your wealth help you to preserve it? Giving it away is a little counterintuitive, right? Well, not exactly, and let me tell you why. Gifting your wealth to family and others allows you to preserve money because of, let's call it, a loophole in US IRS regulations. You see, the IRS, or Internal Revenue Service, charges a gift tax on highly valued assets, such as a house, huge amounts of cash, so on. But even so, there is a limit for this, and under that limit, you can give gifts without paying any tax. In 2021, the gift tax limit was set at $15,000 annually for individuals and $30,000 annually for a couple. Any unused asset can be given to a family member or another person as a gift without incurring any taxes. And with that, A-Luxer, we come to today's question. What do you think is the best way to preserve wealth? We love hearing from each and every one of you, so drop your opinion in the comments. Now, if you stuck with us until the end, here's a bonus tip on preserving your wealth. Instill financial responsibility in your children. Okay, so there's this story. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's about Cornelius Vanderbilt, a shipping and railroad tycoon. The story goes that upon his passing in 1877, he left a huge fraction of his $95 million fortune to his oldest son. Now, this fortune would be worth more than $2 billion in today's money. He left smaller amounts to all of his other kids, but the eldest son, who received most of his fortune, he had his father's knack for business. He actually doubled his massive inheritance in the decade following his father's passing, amassing the largest fortune globally at the time. However, within a few short years, his kids, the Commodore's grandchildren, had spent almost all of it. That's right. So, what do we take away from this story? If you want your wealth to last across multiple generations, you must pass down the financial lessons and knowledge you've learned to your children. Now, we're curious to know the other ways of preserving wealth that you've picked up from your own experience. Use the word wealth in the comments so we know who the true A-Luxers are. Thanks for spending some time with us today. We appreciate every single one of you. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching this video, A-Luxer. If you found it valuable, consider subscribing to our channel and joining our awesome community. And if you're still hungry for more, we handpicked this video for you to watch next. Or head over to our website for more amazing content. See you tomorrow.